Spirituality creates influence in the church, but success gives you greater influence in the marketplace. And make no mistake about it, the marketplace is the primary concern for the expansion of the kingdom. Welcome to 83K Nation. Dr. Keith Johnson here, your Christian success strategist. This show is all about empowering you with the strategies, skills, tactics, and tools to help you reach your next personal, professional, and financial summits to increase your influence, impact, and income fast. I want to talk about the fact that 1 is a losing number. The secret to multiple streams of income. I'll never forget the day that I was struggling, barely making it, living in my mother-in-law's house, had to scrape change out of my ashtray to go down and buy a few tacos at Taco Bell. And I remember I was in so much pain. Always remember this, pain is a sign to us that something is out of order in our life. Most of the time, my friend, what is out of order is a belief system in our own mind. Because remember, the difference between the haves and the have-nots are simply the thoughts and the actions of those who have and those who don't have. Those who have are those who do the right principles to reap a corresponding harvest. Those who don't have are those who don't have the right thoughts, they don't have the right actions, and therefore they are part of the don't have people because they don't do what is necessary to not just get by, not to just survive, but to thrive. And so here I was struggling, and I went for a ride with a guy who was a multimillionaire. And he asked me a question. He says, I know you're struggling. I know you're living in your mother-in-law's house. You're barely getting by. He said, what do you do? And I said, well, I speak. He said, oh, okay, well, that's neat. And he says, what do you speak on? I said, I speak on a lot of different things. And I talk to people about the Bible. And he says, oh, okay. He says, well, what else do you do? I said, that's it. I go and I speak. And sometimes they take up an offering for me if it's a church. Sometimes they give me an honorarium. Sometimes there's an agreed amount that we've agreed on and they pay me. And he says, is that all you do? I says, yes, I'm a speaker. And I said it with confidence. And he looked at me and he said the words, Keith, 1 is a losing number. And I didn't even understand what he meant. I says, well, what are you saying? He says, I want you to think about something. How much money are you making? I said, $25,000 a year. It wasn't enough to survive. I was in poverty. And he said, okay, so you speak and you make $25,000 a year. He said, so you have one way to make money. I said, yeah. Mm-hmm. He said, Keith, 1 times 25,000 is how many? I said, 25,000. He said, good. And I was still puzzled. He said, 1 times 100,000 is how much, Keith? I said, 100,000. He said, let's take it up. 1 times 1,000,000 is how much, Keith? And I said, 1,000,000. He said, that's right. I'm taking you back to 5th grade math. 1 times anything is the same thing. I'm like, okay. He said, the reason why you are struggling financially is because 1 is a losing number. You need to learn how to create multiple streams of income. I've never heard of this before. Multiple streams of income coming into your life. He said, think about this, Keith. What's 2 times 25? I said 50,000. He said, well, would you be in a little bit different situation today if you had 2 $25,000 things going on in your life? Where you're making 50,000. Would things be better? I said, oh yeah. He says, okay. He says, how about if we had 3 streams of income? 25, 25, 25. Now you have 75,000. Would your life be different? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be living in my mother-in-law's house. He says, He said, what if you took that 25 times 4 and you had 100,000? Now back then, which is 2002, $100,000 was everybody's aim. Woo, that was a lot of money. Today, it's still poverty level. Like you're just itching into middle class. And I said, wow, $100,000. I've never made that much in my whole life. He said, think about this, Keith. If you can make 1 source of income, can you make 2? I said, yes. Can you make 3? I said, yes. Can you make 4? I said, yes. He said, that's why, Keith, 1 is a losing number. And you've got to start thinking multiple sources of income. The number 1 request we get from entrepreneurs is, hey, I love your books and teachings, but is it possible for you to mentor me? As someone who has served as a business coach and consultant for 30 years, yes, of course I want to help you. Since you visited this page, it tells me something about you. You're hungry to change your personal, professional, and financial situation. And that's the first requirement that I look for in mentoring people. If that sounds like you, I want to invite you into my private group, 83K Society. This is a tight group of 7-figure earners who are ready to scale above and beyond that, as well as people who are accelerating their way to achieving the spiritual and moral goal of success and financial wealth. We've had some amazing testimonies from people I've coached, like Martine, for instance, who just had his first $1 million day. Matt Anderson, a 30-year-old who bought a $27 million apartment complex. Justin Kane, who just had his first $83,000 month. There's Janice Rhodes, who finally published her first book. Then there's James, who made an extra $100,000 building his consulting company. There are 2 ways to learn: mistakes and mentors. Sadly, in the beginning, I was all alone, learning from a lot of mistakes. But when God crossed my path with millionaire mentors, that changed quickly for me. So I made a vow that when I became wealthy, I would become the person that I needed by helping others just like you. 83K Society is all about giving you access to 3 important things: mentoring to inform you, coaching to challenge you, and a community to support you. Here's what becoming a mentor of our 83K Society looks like for you. You're getting monthly coaching from me at our Success Symposium. You're getting access to our 1-year Millionaire in the Making training program. You're getting access to the Success Vault, a library of trainings on the 3 pillars of success: confidence, leadership, and wealth, valued at over $37,000. You're also receiving fly-on-the-wall interviews with Kingdom Millionaires and Billionaires. And finally, you'll be automatically approved to join our 83K Society community on Facebook. You become what you focus on. If you want to become a baker, you need to study recipes and develop kitchen skills. In the same way, if you want to scale beyond 7 figures, you need to study the wealthy. Listen, if you feel like you're going around in circles, you have to change the circles you get around. Because the fastest way to change your life is to elevate your relationships. That's why my team has created the most incredible free gift offer ever. We are going to let you have a free test drive of this mentoring experience for the first 60 days. If you'd like to continue the mentoring after 60 days, we're going to give you an additional 50% off. The investment of this membership is $83 per month, and you will be able to get in for a limited time for only $39. This is a special one-time deal for you to get in to this special 83K Society. When you say maybe today, you can have everything I just told you about for 2 full months. Click the link below and I'll see you at the next Success Symposium. He looked at me, he says, Keith, I'm not that much of a spiritual guy. He says, but I do know what God said in the book of Genesis. Now think about this. When you meet somebody for the first time, right? It's like your first time you meet him. What do you tell them? You're like, hey, my name is Keith Johnson. And the dialogue usually starts off with, well, what do you do? And then you tell them what you do. Well, I'm a speaker, author, coach. Oh, now the moment I tell them what my name is and what I do, I'm now revealing my passions. I'm revealing my heart. I'm opening the door to let people see a little glimpse of what I'm all about. So first conversations are very important because that person's going to base everything that they think about me on that very first meeting with me. So I want you to think in terms of this. God is introducing Himself to mankind. And so how He introduces Himself has to be, very important. And the Bible says when God introduced Himself, He said in Genesis 1:28, and He said, be fruitful and multiply. Look at that. He said, first I want you to be something. I want you to be what? A fruitful person. Now, I don't know if you've ever considered like what we could learn from fruit, but every piece of fruit has seeds on the inside of that fruit. And so from that piece of fruit that has seeds inside of that fruit, you could take that seed, and if you don't eat it and you plant the seed, like for instance, if you have an orange seed, you can plant that seed, right? And that seed that we look at, the potential of that seed is not just an orange. The potential of that tree is not even necessarily an orange tree. The potential of that one little seed is an entire orchard of oranges. That's the power or potential of a seed. So God starts talking to us about, I want you to what? I want you to be fruitful. Meaning I put seeds of greatness inside of you. I put certain skill sets. I put certain talents. And if you look at Jeremiah, God says, before the foundations of the world, I made you. I created you. I put within you what you need to be able to create a fruitful life that multiplies and flourishes in the earth. And so what happens to us many times is the same thing that happened to Adam and Eve in the garden. Mankind begins to focus more on what we lack than the abundance of what we already have within. God put Adam and Eve in this big Garden of Eden, and He says, don't eat of that tree. I've got all these other trees. They're all yours. But what did Adam and Eve do? They focused on what they didn't have. They focused on that one tree. Wait a minute, you got all these other trees. The moment we begin to think like God, this multimillionaire introduced me to a concept that was like, wait a minute, one is not a multiplier. And you don't begin to multiply until you start with the number 2. Why do you think Jesus sent the disciples out what? 2 by 2. So they can experience multiplication in their efforts. That together we could work together and accomplish more than if we were just all by ourselves as one, because God knows one's a losing number. There's a famous proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. But a wealthy mindset says, I want both. Let's go farther, faster. That's why you should apply to join 83K Society. 83K Society is an exclusive private group of Christian entrepreneurs focused on generating an extra 83K a year, perhaps 83K per month, 83K per week, or even 83K per day. Each month we develop our mastery in the 3 pillars of success: confidence, leadership, and wealth. We do this through monthly coaching symposiums, expert multi-millionaire interviews, mastermind meetings, and a 1-year millionaire in the making highly specialized content you can only find in this group. Meet the fastest growing group of Christian millionaires. For a free 60-day trial, head on over to 83K